Welcome to this everyday resilient legend, the most phenomenal quantum business and manifestation coach, Alex Tripod, who is here today to share her story about how to accept and embrace your sexuality. Now, Alex is an international speaker. She's a #1 best-selling author who has just one mission, and that is to raise the vibration of humanity on a global scale. Now, I love Alex because she cuts through all the fluff and she gives the most powerful, tangible tools on how to really shift realities. And I know firsthand how she delivers the most beautiful blend between, science and spirituality, combined with the latest quantum business strategies and systems to help you create a killer online brand and business. Now, Alex has worked with thousands of people around the globe. She has toured Australia multiple times with her powerful workshops. One's called Raise Your Vibration and the other is Subatomic Shift. And Alex is also the creator of the Subatomic Shift Mastermind, where she helps game changers and visionaries next level their income, impact, and freedom. Now, I love this, Alex, because you're also the creator of Love Wins, which is a personal development music concert that is dedicated to shift the collective consciousness into love through self-expression and creative performance. Now, what an intro that is, Alex. I love it.
And I'm just sitting here going, God, no pressure. Love it. Thank you
oh my gosh. So you've created so many beautiful things. It's amazing. And I'm sure that everyone is eagerly waiting to hear your story about how to accept and embrace your sexuality. And, we would love to hear about how these big experiences and challenges in your life has helped shape the person that you are today.
Beautiful. Thank you. I think I just want to start with a really quick tool I want to give anyone listening right now, because every time I listen back to someone reading my bio, I think we have this human condition to keep looking at our gap where we want to be. And just it's such a beautiful little exercise that you can do right now. It's just like listing down like everything you've achieved, who you are, and something. It doesn't even matter about physical tangible things or what you've created. Like, who have you become, even like through the hardships, through a failed relationship. Like, who did this have you become? What did you learn about yourself? Did you have more resilience, more courage, the strength to pull away from something that wasn't in your highest alignment? And I think where we can look and do the reverse gap and look in the rearview mirror to acknowledge ourselves, it's such an instant rocket boost to our vibration, and it kind of bridges that gap of constantly looking at that sort of the ego's insatiable thirst for more, if that makes sense.
To be better, bigger, I love that. I use that with my clients a lot, Alex, of not only looking at what you've achieved in the last year, but even the last 5 or 10 years. And when you look at that, you're like, far out. I actually have done a lot in my life, and there's lots of steps that we take that we kind of forget about unless we reflect back. So I love that little gap tool.
Yeah. So where do we start? Where do you want me to start? Do you want me to
talk about my story? For my listeners and watchers, they probably don't know who you are and your story about sexuality and coming into the beautiful woman that you are now. Yeah. Let's hear about that.
All right. Awesome. Beautiful. Where do I start? I feel like it's really important to just be clear, like, yes, I've done all these things and I've created this stuff, but I also know what it's like to not believe in yourself. It was only 4.5 years ago that I was in a 9-to-5 job that really didn't light me up, and I was in a really toxic relationship. I didn't have a vision. I didn't believe in myself. I sort of, just bought into the conditioning. And I think for me, what's really had a huge part in my journey, of having the courage to take crazy, ridiculous action, and that resilience and that focus and that determination, is the resilience that came from, like being a Greek girl in a, and coming out to a family like, hey, I'm gay, and sort of like this journey of having to really accept this and not fight against it. I still remember the day. I think it was like I just ended my my first sort of long-term relationship with a woman, and it was about 2.5 years altogether. And I was 27 years old. I'm 35 now, and I was like, stuff this. I'm going to turn myself straight. And I got a one-way ticket to Greece, and I quit my job and I went to Greece. And the intention was literally like, I'm going to go be with a guy. I'm going to go find a guy. I'm going to bring him home. I'm finally going to make my parents happy. And it was really interesting because I finally just wanted to be in a relationship where I could post on social media. I could be accepted. I could be invited to family things. Lo and behold, that kind of went pretty pear-shaped. I did find a good Greek boy, and I brought him home, and he was handsome, and he treated me like a queen, and we got along like a house on fire, and it was amazing. And 6 weeks into him coming to Australia, I realized, holy shit, I've really got to accept this part of myself. I'm really, really, really gay, and I'm just going to break another person's heart because I've brought them into my mess yet again. And that kind of is what sort of catapulted that bit of a rock bottom. And then I sort of, it was pretty intense. Where do we go from here? I could go so many ways, Casey.
I love that. Oh, thank you for sharing. I mean, how do you go having, these a Greek family with the Greek ideologies about what it's supposed to look like with marriage, to the opposite sex and what that looks like. How did that go when you had to tell your family and your friends about all that?
No, my friends are cool, and it's really interesting because like there was like, and don't get me wrong, like my parents and I we've come so far right now. Like they're in love with Calibo and my fiance. Like it's so amazing. But at the time I was petrified telling them, and I still remember sitting on the couch and like, I try to kind of kid myself like my whole life. I kind of knew from about 16, but I was like, oh, maybe I'm just bisexual. Maybe I can be with a guy. And like, and it was about 25 years old, and I was like, I need to tell them. And I was really, really scared. And kind of like, I still remember the moment where I was like, I think I'm kind of sort of maybe a little bit gay. And it was nothing short of like when they received it, it was like, it's like I told them I had terminal illness and 3 months to live. It was like crying and devastation, and like mum, dad, and my sister like holding each other, and I'm on the other end. I'm like, hang on a second, like what's going on here? And so it was a really, really tough time. But like I said, when I look back in hindsight now, gosh, there was so many codes activated within me in that moment, like the resilience, the self-belief that I had to conjure up. And like there was an inner knowing that even though in that moment all looked like it was all going to shit, I just knew there was going to be a time in the future where I was going to have this amazing woman and in my life, and my parents were going to love her. And I just knew there was going to be a day in my life where dad and I would like, check out hot chicks together and comment on them, and just like it would just be completely transformed. And I had to hold that vision. And I feel like in that moment, potentially my visionary codes got activated, because to be a visionary, you have to believe in the insane. You have to believe in the invisible. You have to believe in the invisible to bring it to the visible, even though it goes against everything of what is reality, if that makes sense. Because a lot of the time I see people going, well, Alex, look at my reality. How am I meant to feel any other way? And so I made it my number one thing to like feel hopeful and strong about the future, even though in that moment it would have just been easier to go, oh, don't worry about it. I'm not really gay. I'll just
carpet. Yeah, and there's something that you say, Alex, that I absolutely love, and this has been a game changer for me, is that, not letting your current reality and circumstances dictate your future or path, the way for your future. And so having that sense of hope is so important, because if we shift into hopelessness, that lower level emotional vibration that starts to shift into the guilt and shame, and
Yes.
we don't want to be around that when we're in those sort of states. So
And this can be with anything, right, Casey?
yeah.
It's like, we look at the money in our bank account, and most of us will let the money in a bank account dictate our vibration, meaning dictate how I feel, which what does that do? It just creates this vicious cycle. Or I allow, how, whatever it is. And what we're doing is, it's like we're having the physical thing in our life dictate how we feel, instead what the real equation is, how I feel is a vibrational match, which attracts all circumstances, conversations, people, and events into my life. And once you get a taste of that, oh, it's so beautiful, which is why I'm such a custodian for my beautiful clients, always doing the inner work to emotionally condition themselves to who they want to be, what's in that reality, instead of kind of plodding along life, because life will hit you with all sorts of funky shit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think too, you've come to a place now where you've really embraced your sexuality. You talk about it openly and freely. This identity that you've stepped
even in my marketing.
is so beautiful, but you've taken this big, huge leap of and real courage. But to get there, it's been a process for you. So what were some of the coping skills that you used to help you get through those challenges?
Yeah. When I look at the actual time, my coping skills, like I wish I had the tools that I have now.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I just had to remove myself from the environment. I literally had to get out of there and have not allowing this into my space. So you could almost without the awareness around it, I had really healthy, strong boundaries of what I was allowing into my life, and not allowing the manipulation or the control of who I am allowed to be. So that was really helpful. But for me now, it's kind of the best way to explain it is obviously I'm a huge fan of transcendental meditation. I see so many people wanting to transform their lives. And, we look at what's your limiting belief, and let's rewire a belief, and let's do the emotional healing. And that is all phenomenal work. And when paired up with some sort of a meditation, and I prefer silent meditation, think of it like you're emptying out the junk from your head and then filling it up with, things that are in alignment with what you're wanting to create. Too many of us are trying to jam new shit in our heads when it's a head full of crap, right? You've got, I think it's 65 to 90,000 thoughts a day is the average amount of thoughts a human will have. And 70%, psychologists will tell us, are negative or redundant, meaning we keep thinking the same thing that we thought yesterday, which is, right? Yeah. One of the biggest things I think for me as well, though, is having the awareness around this unconscious sort of identity I was playing out in the family. And this was the biggest thing that had me shift through, which then exploded in my business, my finances, my relationship. It changed everything. And so to give you some context, what was actually happening is, and there's all different sort of unconscious roles. I can be like people pleaser, the victim, the star, the hero, the robot, the drama queen. I was playing, right? The slave. I was playing the scapegoat, which is like the psychedelic sheep of the family or the black sheep of the family, right?
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like, oh, if only Alex wasn't gay, then it would be okay. And so I was actually carrying or managing my family's shame that wasn't actually mine. And so when I brought this into my business, when I started my life coaching business almost 5 years ago now, what this looked like was I was actually creating from a place of trying to prove myself. So I was actually constantly creating from a place of not enough, which is why I probably took so much crazy, huge action, because it was like, am I worthy now? Do you see me now? Do you love me now, mummy and daddy? And please when we don't do the work, like whether it's in business, whether it's in relationship, whether it's just how you treat yourself, we are in adult's body. But if you haven't done the inner work, we're literally showing up as our child self with all of those woundings and traumas. And until I resign from this role and went, actually, no, this is not my programming. This is your shame. It's not mine to manage. That's when everything shifted. And now I get to create from a place of inspiration and love and not having to prove myself. What can happen here if anyone's sort of going, oh, maybe I'm carrying one of these. What can happen is when you sort of decide to remove yourself from the sort of tribal cycle, it's kind of like you're removing think of it like a baby's mobile swing. And if you remove one piece out, it can kind of swing really wonky. All of a sudden, it's not balanced. And so your mom, your dad, your uncle, your sister, your brother, whatever, will kind of come in and try to do everything in their power to have you behave the way you did before, because it makes them feel better, that they don't have to look in the mirror and themselves do the inner work or change their behaviors, and they now find you threatening. And so in that moment, if you do decide to recognize, oh shit, I am playing a part in this family conditioning and cycle, yes, resign from this role, yes, do the work to heal this, and know that the longer term work too is to hold steady in your boundaries, because they will try to suck you in. And it is very easy, if you don't have strong boundaries, to get sort of manipulated or sucked into that, because we love these people, you know, we love them so much, but it's like, no, hey, I'm a custodian for my evolution and my ascension. And if you don't choose to grow, that's okay, but I'm not going to get sucked back into here. I'm growing.
Absolutely. And because they're trying to create balance in their lives back. That's all they're trying to do, is that work out how that they can create the balance. But if you've got that real soul sovereignty with where you've got you're holding that vision of where you want to head in the future and having those boundaries and standing strong, you know, that's so powerful within itself, because you're then shifting and allowing the concentric rings and the ripples to sort of filter out, and it allows space for them to also level up and shift into potentially things that they need to look at or work through as well.
Absolutely. I love that.
So good. And so, Alex, looking back now in hindsight, because hindsight is a beautiful thing, what advice would you give to somebody who's going through a similar type of situation where they're coming out, or, you know, being really clear on their sexuality?
Such a good question. I feel like if I go back to that version of me, I think that the biggest thing as well, like just giving yourself that, I mean, look, it's going to sound so cliche, but it all comes down to that self-love, right? So it's like, okay, like what would someone who truly loved themselves do? You know, and it would be to hold strong in the knowing. It would be to, if you need to remove yourself out of the environment, it would be to surround yourself with beautiful people that you do trust, that you can talk to, that, you know, are open. For me, I think that was huge, having beautiful friendships in my life that were like so there for me. You know, that was huge. And then of course, like I'm a life coach, of course I'm in a manifestation, because I'm obviously going to say explore, go into whatever it is. There's so many free tools these days, like whether it's, you know, incantations or affirmations or a meditation app. Start to explore these things of, you know, I also like, I kind of almost like to call them being tools. So the more you can sort of like sit and be and not get caught up in the drama and in the fear, you know, even like getting really intentional with sitting in gratitude every morning, go on a little gratitude rant of all the things that are working out for you, because in these moments, it can seem really hard. It can seem like a bit of a dark cave, and you can't really see the light at the end of the tunnel. So gratitude, meditation, surrounding yourself with beautiful, supportive friends that understand with what you're going through. And also just like that self-belief and self-certainty that, you know, like you're choosing you, you know, and to honor your courage, like the courage that you're not going to be silenced and you're going to accept being a little bit different, and that's freaking cool, and you're unique. And yeah.
I love that so much, Alex. It's such those tools, they seem like they can be insignificant because they're the small things. But I always say to my clients, you know, it's the small little 1% things done consistently over time that create these big, huge shifts and changes. And sometimes we're looking for all of these external things to sort of fix us or make things better when, you know, the answers really lie within. And those tools really help to not only get to know yourself better, but create that sense of self-love and belief so that you can take the courage to move forward and take those steps.
Yeah. And I feel like, you know, as well, it's like doing a little even like if you're a journaler, journal on this. Like for me, I'm personally not a journaler. I like to self-coach out aloud, but like a lot, specifically when we're looking at, you know, being a bit different or sexuality, or, you know, if there's something similar to my story, it's typically usually linked to frequencies of guilt or shame. So it's like looking at like, what is this my own guilt? Is this my shame? Or am I actually carrying someone else's? Or maybe it's fear. Like, what am I actually afraid of? Am I afraid that my parents are going to abandon me and not love me? Am I afraid that I'm never going to find love? Am I afraid of being different and being judged and being ridiculed? And like, you know, even when we look at gratitude, like gratitude has the ability to raise your vibration all the way up anywhere between 600 to 800 hertz, which means you're in that like pure joy frequency, expanded energy. And in that energy, gratitude, like scientifically proven, it squashes fear and anxiety dead. And so if you're going through a tough time, using this simple tool and just setting an alarm on your phone, going on a gratitude rant like 2 or 3 times a day, like that's that in itself. And almost like, if you want to be like extra manifesty about it, like speaking into existence things that you're grateful for that haven't happened yet. So for example, like back then, I would have given myself the tool to be like, I'm so grateful and thankful that mum and dad came around so quickly. I'm so grateful and thankful that, you know, they realize like, gosh, I'm like, they love me so much and this is totally cool. I'm so grateful and thankful for how quickly everything transmuted, and like, and going on a little like rant of how you want it to be and tricking the subconscious mind that it already is. So just be careful if you're going to do this, that you're languaging it in the now, because most people will go, I'm so grateful and thankful that my mum and dad will come around. And so you're telling your subconscious mind that they will one day in the future, and you keep perpetuating that. So I feel like, yeah, if I could go back in time and give my 25-year-old self a tool, it would definitely be abracadabbering what I want into existence and ingraining the subconscious mind with new beliefs.
Oh, I love that so much, Alex. It's something that I do all of the time and has really helped me shift in my life as well. And again, that comes back to not allowing your current reality and circumstances to create your future or path the way. You know, you're then actually designing and taking control of what's happening and how you want things to be in the present moment.
Yeah. And also sitting with, like, sometimes it can feel a bit clunky, like I'm constantly trying to mindset myself or abracadabra something else to an existence and it's not working. And it's like, okay, cool. Well, if you're finding resistance, even just doing this, maybe the tool that's going to have you feel less resistance and give you more relief is just sitting in the, hey, maybe right now, in this next month or 2, or this is the year that my warrior is being activated. And there's so many parts and so many attributes and qualities that is literally being created within my cellular structure and my self-belief that I'm going to be able to use in the future. And just being with, like, I'm a legend. Like, I'm literally a legend is being created right now, you know, and having that, I think having that hindsight, like everything is always happening for a reason, and it's constantly building you and shaping you into such a beautiful, resilient light warrior. Because, we use this information to then go, cool, then who can I serve? Who can I help with this experience?
And I feel like sharing all of these beautiful tools it's helped me, Alex, but also I'm sure it's helped so many people listening right now through their experience. So thank you so much for sharing your story about how to really embrace and step into that courage of embracing your sexuality. So thank you, Alex. How will people get in touch if they want to reach out to you? What's the best way?
Yeah, I mean, just, I guess I've got a stack of awesome free stuff just on my website. So just alextripod.com. Otherwise, yeah, just come on my Instagram, which is alextripod, or my Facebook, private message me. Let me know, like, what you found most valuable out of this. I'd love to hear from you. I always love hearing, like, so funny, like, just even if I could just have one beautiful soul get through a hard time from this, it's like, impact has been made.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we're doing what we're doing, sharing through storytelling. I love it. So good. Thank you so much for your time today, Alex. And I'm sure there'll be listeners that will be reaching out to you.
Bye.
Bye. So how good was that? So many simple yet really effective transformative tools from the amazing Alex Tripod. Now, to make it easier for you to remember all of the coping skills, I'm going to summarize what we just spoke about. Now, when I talk about the coping skills, I might say things like chunk it, flip it, map it, block it. And these are different types of coping skills that I'll be teaching you throughout this series and talking you through this throughout the Everyday Resilient Legends series. Now, when I talk about it, I'm referring to the problem or whatever your problem is. Now, the great thing about these coping skills is that these skills are actually transferable across the board. Now, by that, I mean it's transferable across situations, contexts, environments, and different people, so you can use them in any kind of circumstance. So to wrap this session up, I'm going to give you the top 5 coping skills that we discussed today. Now, number 1 is celebrate it. And celebrate it is all about a great coping skill to help you raise your vibration. It's one method that you can use, and you can try using the gap tool that we spoke about, which is looking back so that you can look forward. So you can write down who you have become or what you've done over the past year, 5 years, or even 10 years. And this will get you vibing really high, but also it'll just show you how far you've really come in your life. And it's just such a great tool. Now, number 2 is talk it. Now, talk it is about surrounding yourself with beautiful people that you can talk to, that you can trust, and that you can be really open with. Now, you can also practice this by setting strong boundaries around your environment as well. Now, number 3 is map it. Now, map it is a coping skill that's one of my favorites, but it's all about mapping out a plan so that you can really get clear on what you want to create in your life and who you want to become, so you can step into that identity, so that you can really be unshakable around, other people that maybe don't have the same beliefs as you or the same values as you at this point. Now, in this, awareness is really key. You want to become aware of your potential unconscious identity roles that you may be playing out. And this is something that I do with my clients. I help them to focus on their identity and, who they want to become and who they want to step into. But you can do this at home by practicing what I call being tools. Now, being tools are rather than doing tools, but being tools are things like incantations, affirmations, transcendental meditation, and they're tools that you can really help to transform your identity. Now, love it is the other one. Now, in this case, love it is all about cultivating self-love, self-belief, and self-certainty. And this is really about having the courage to trust and be who you truly are. Now, you can ask yourself the question, what would someone who truly loves themselves do, be, and act? Now, number 5, the last one is thank it. Now, thank it is a coping skill that's all about having gratitude so that we can help raise our vibration. And it's scientifically proven that
Gratitude literally obliterates fear and anxiety. It cannot exist. Fear and anxiety cannot exist when you're in a state of gratitude. Now, scientifically speaking, we know that being in a state of or a space of gratitude gives us the opportunity to shift up our frequency, level up anywhere between 600 to 800 hertz frequency. So being that frequency means that you in that space of that really joyful space of frequency, which is that vibrational frequency that you can then be a match to as well, meaning that, you know, you can attract other things or other people or situations into your environment that are operating at that vibrational frequency, which is really exciting. So don't forget to go on a gratitude rant and do this a couple of times a day. I do it all the time. It's great. Now, if you've loved this episode of Everyday Resilient Legends and got lots out of it, please share it with your loved ones and get this information out there for them to benefit too. And if you know of any other everyday resilient legends that could be on this show and be interviewed by me, please reach out. You can reach me at mental.health.hacker, either on Facebook or Instagram. And I am Dr. Casey Delmara, your high vibe coach. And until next time, you've got this. I believe in you.